Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Step Up to the Mic. This is the place for aspiring and established speakers to take the stage, bring all of their talks directly to you, and just absolutely have a ball. Folks, this is the place for speakers. Today's featured speaker she is a private rehabilitation guide. She is also a somatic psychotherapist. She's a transformational facilitator, a speaker, and author of the book Metamorphosis. Please welcome to the show, Soreya James.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my God, it's so exciting to be here. And as I just listened to Soreya is and the credentials and all of the labels and things of what Soreya does, it kind of makes me think, what is it that I actually do? And what is it that I'm here to speak to you about? Do I compartmentalize it? Do I speak about the somatic psychotherapy aspect of what I do? Do I speak about the authorship, the book that I've just written? Do I talk about transformational work? Do I talk about psychedelic assisted therapy? There's so much that I could pack into this time to bring to an audience such as yourself, those of you who are listening. But as I take a breath and let my nerves settle, because as humans are, when we come to a stage, whether we're speaking to one or many or thousands, there's a natural adrenaline that we can sometimes call anxiety that comes through the human psyche. So I'm going to first take a breath, and I'm going to invite you to take a breath with me, because as an audience, I imagine that sometimes you're sitting on the edge of the seat, awaiting for some kind of incredible wisdom to be expelled into the crowd, or something profound that you can take into your life. And sometimes they're just simple messages. So the first simple message is, can we just take a breath together? A nice big deep inhale, and then a long deep exhale of the mouth, so that I can ground myself and I can connect with each and every one of you who is listening. So yes, I am Soreya James, born in New Zealand, in my mid-50s, post-menopausal woman, empty nester, and so much more. I could tell you about all of the different credentials and qualifications that I've received and gained, and that have transformed my life over the last 34 years. Or I could talk with you about something more significant, about the things that have shaped me personally and the reason why I do the work that I do, and perhaps even how I got into this work and how this may relate to you. So, as a 19-year-old, and we're talking, 30 something years ago, 20 something years ago, well, I'm making myself a bit older than what I actually am, I was in a very toxic relationship. One of those teen relationships where you think that you're deeply in love and this is the love of my life, and first boyfriend, or maybe second, third. And it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for him. It wasn't good for anyone involved in our relationship. And I found myself searching for something that could support me, and I knew counseling wasn't the way. I knew that traditional therapies were not going to help me. As a young woman, I knew that that wasn't the way. So I stumbled upon this poster I remember seeing on like a billboard, or like a pole or something in my local town, and it had these big black bold words: the turning point, change your life. Now we're talking sort of pre-big Tony Robbins style, and pre all of the big epic kind of transformational spaces that you could have dived into in the last couple of decades. And so this made me curious. And I asked my parents if they would lend me the money for me to go to this 3-day workshop called The Turning Point. During those 3 days, I experienced something inside of me that even as a young woman, I knew in that moment that I was meant for something greater than toxic relationships. The psoriasis that was covering my entire body from what I was ingesting inside of myself, I knew that I could heal. I knew that the voice inside of me that was stuck and stagnant and obstructed from being alive and full of vitality and life force could be set free. And I found that on this weekend. I was with 120 people that most humans would cross the street to avoid. There were gang members, there were ex-prisoners, there were addicts. And here I was, this young little wide-eyed, blonde, blue-eyed girl going, this is where I belong. I knew that sitting beside these people, that there was something to learn and some way inside of me to grow, because society had cancelled these people out. They'd judged them, they'd made them wrong, and in some way, each one of these human beings had found themselves in these deep, dark, black holes that had created their addictions, that had created their abuse, that had created the things that they did in life that put them into the places they ended up. And yet here they were, all together in this room, because something in them was sparked to make a change. And I remember one really distinct point, and I get emotional every time I tell this story because it sits in my cells, where I was sitting opposite this big Maori man. And for those of you who don't know our indigenous culture, they have beautiful dark skin, and they're built strong, like brick shit houses, my dad calls them. And he was covered in tattoos from face to toes. And if you looked at him, you'd be scared. But I had the privilege of being with him for, this time. And we were sitting opposite each other, and we were doing a process where we were surrogating for someone in their life that had hurt and harmed them. And I was surrogating as his father. So he was feeling me as his dad, and I was responding accordingly to help him get off his chest the things he never got to say. And he let rip. And he had a mattress. There was a mattress in between us, so he could smash the mattress and get his rage and his fury and, all of the anger and disturbed kind of toxicity inside of his body out, whilst I sat there in pure presence, just saying, what else? And at the end, he collapsed in front of me. He put his hands on my knees, and he cried and he cried and he cried. And I knew in that moment that I, as a young woman, had the capacity to hold something great for a man that was breaking, for a woman that was screaming on the other side of the room, for the young lady who had lost her husband, for the man who had come out of prison. Some part of me sat there in the middle of this room and could hold the emotional capacity of it all. And throughout my life, I have been on a path, on a strong, deep, unrelenting, ruthless path to make that be my destiny or my legacy. And that's what I've done. I've held and I've held and I've held as people have come through my door. You know the people I'm talking about, the ones that have tried everything and have exhausted every avenue, and people give up on them, the ones that get cancelled, the ones that get turned away from. And for whatever reason, they find someone like me. And I listen. And I don't turn the clock on and say, you've got an hour. Because these people need a lot more than an hour. They need your time. They need your love. They need your care. They need your compassion. You know who I'm talking about, and you might be that person. So for however many years now, this has been a gift of mine in this life, to bring people into my home, to bring people into retreat, to bring people into whatever space and place they're drawn to be the capacity for their depth, for their darkness, and for their greatness. And each and every one of us has that inside of us. And I believe in the human spirit because we have this infinite capacity. We have this infinite intelligence. We have this like creative consciousness inside of us that is so magnificent. It's like the magnitude of who we are. I mean, think of the greats on the planet, right? Like, we all have it, but we're just obstructed. We're molded, we're conditioned. And that 19-year-old was like, no, I'm not going to believe this. I'm not going to allow this. And then life showed me that this doesn't have to be the way. And in the moment I was smashing mattresses and converging with that person who surrogated for me, that lifted the lid off too. And there was a time about 10 years ago where I was doing probably my greatest work on the planet, supporting women globally to really awaken and bring themselves out of this poverty consciousness. And we were gifting community, and it was just so profound. And there were thousands of women worldwide. And anyway, the Commerce Commission here in New Zealand got a hold of it, and a journalist got a hold of it, and they decided that I was to be shut down. Let's get rid of her because she's actually doing something that is outside the realm, the structure, the systems of what we should do in society and how we should be. And so up came my photo, front page, national paper, with a heading, Twisted Kiwi Scheme Leader Revealed, Soreya James, co-leader. There it was again. The shutdown, the cancellation, the you can't stand tall, you can't stand proud, you can't be the thing that you're meant to be. So then you go back into, I'm a this, I'm a that. I'll fit into this box. I'll squeeze myself in to make you happy and to make you comfortable. But it's never the way. So many of us squeeze ourselves and cancel ourselves out for our own limiting beliefs and put labels and concepts and constructs on ourselves of what we should be for someone else or something else. But I go back to these times, you know, in that room when I was 19 and when that article came out, and I just decided, no, I'm not going to let this take me down. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to play small. And I just kept on rising and rising and showing up and getting smashed and showing up and getting smashed. And the article, to this day, 10 years later, still plays its part because it never goes away, right? Never goes away. The viral media never goes away, even though they're wanting you to go away. My dad used to say, just ignore her and she'll go away, because I was annoying, I was irritating, I was disrupting because I was big and bold as a little girl, as a teenager, as a young woman. I'll just ignore her and she'll go away. And he meant it flippantly, but it stuck. And I now say to him, I never went away, Dad. I'm still here. But those words, the words that those people in the room, that room with 120 loud voices, shy voices, bold voices, scared voices, those words, the words that come through, that cut you, the words of my father, recently the words of my brother, are not going to stop me from being me, because it can't. You see, we come in with a core wound that gets chipped away at and chipped away at and chipped away at and chipped away at, but we also come in with a destiny. And the metamorphosis of those, from the seed to the butterfly, is where we have to show up. And you can try stepping off that path over and over and over again, but I tell you, God's going to get you, or life's going to get you and pull you out, or give you another slap and be like, be your greatness, be bold, shine, step up to the mic. Don't shy away from it. So I'm wondering if we can just take another breath together, because that was a lot to digest, to ingest. And I guess if I wrap it up with a breath and with a moment, I would say that there's a turning point in everybody's life. Not just one, not two, but many. So when you see that sign, when you get that push or that truck, the Mack truck, and life forces you to look at something to make you a better person, to have you step forward, step out, step through, listen, because it's only going to get louder. And where you listen from is underneath the breath. And the breath expands the rib cage. And inside the rib cage is your soul. And when you sit up and you breathe deeply, your soul is set free. And that's where your destiny resides. So let's take one last breath. Not one last one, but one breath together. And I'll set you on your way. Why don't you just close your eyes for a moment and maybe just place your hand on your heart if that feels comfortable for you, and really take in or take what you need from what has been shared here, because every story is a mirror of our own. Everyone has a gift to give, and everyone is guiding each other home. So if that's triggered something in you, or if it's awakened something in you, breathe into that. And remember your greatness. I'm Soreya James, and I'm so grateful to have been here with you today. And I want to say namaste. Thank you.
Soreya James, everybody. Wow. This is usually where I come in and I say a whole bunch of really cool stuff. That was absolutely incredible. That was unbelievable. I hope you're getting paid to do this.
Not yet.
Oh my goodness.
But
Wow.
I did turn an invitation down because they wouldn't pay me, and I said no.
Good for you. Good for you.
I mean, I have done years ago, but I've been busy being a mum, so it's my time now.
I have to agree with that. Oh my goodness. All right.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions, if that's okay. As
Absolutely.
anticlimactic as they may be after that. That was really something. Um, the You mentioned the surrogating that you do, and you mentioned how you had that someone do that for you.
Hmm.
Is that what got you into wanting to do that for other people, having had that done for you first, or did you somehow learn this? How do you get into that sort of that discipline?
Yeah, so that was my first experience of surrogate therapy, I guess you would have called it back then. I mean, it didn't really have a name, you know.
Hmm.
Um, what we were essentially doing in that room for those 3 days was somatic psychotherapy work, but it wasn't named that. You know, that's a new thing. People go, "Oh, I'm a somatic therapist." I'm like, I've been doing that for 34 years, like, but it just wasn't named that, right? So it was a process that was introduced by the leaders of this particular group that for me at that stage in my life, I mean, I was still so young, was one of the most powerful experiences. It was like, oh my gosh, I can't talk to my ex-boyfriend because he's just too much, he's too angry. I can't talk to my brother who used to beat me as a child because he's estranged. I can't talk to my grandfather who sexually abused me because he's dead. So when you surrogate, it's like you can physically almost sometimes see that person in the face of the one that's sitting opposite you, and you're so in the energetics of it that it's just like boom, I need to say this to this person. And the presence that your surrogate holds, I mean, they're not allowed to say anything back, right? They're a listening board. The only words that we got invited to say was thank you, what else? So you're eliciting more. And eventually what happens is, you know, you letting out the rage and the upset and the grief and the hurt and all the things, and eventually what happens is you go into your trauma body and the tears come, you know, because when when the energy body or the emotional body is released, you're moving into the waters of the body. And that's why people cry, you know, and that's why if somebody you know, like yelled at and a response is like, please don't yell at me, and they cry, that's because it's reached a trauma. And so eventually there's these tears that sit in the trauma body, in the waters of the body, and they come out, and then you go deeper, layer, another layer deeper, another layer deeper. And eventually you come to a place of forgiveness, which is at the level of the soul, right? You're not condoning what someone's done to you, but at the level of the soul. And that was that profound moment for me. It was like, how do you forgive your grandfather that's done, terrible things to you? How do you forgive a rapist? How do you forgive a toxic, abusive partner? It's like, well, you're not condoning what they've done, but you forgive at that deep soul level to set yourself free. And I remember that one process, there were many that weekend, but that one process stuck with me. And then later on in my life, when I was about 30, 31, 32, 33, I trained with Tony Robbins, then I trained with Brandon Bays, and they taught a similar process. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. And then I went through some tantric schooling, and then I went to India, and I was like, they were all teaching the same process. It was called a different name. So that's, yes, I have a qualification in these, somatic psychotherapy processes, but I don't even know if that's what you'd call it. It's it's just beautiful. It's profound.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. If you don't mind me asking, I'm picturing you doing the surrogating work.
Hmm.
I can only imagine what that would feel like being in your position, having all of that energy
Yeah.
thrown at you like that. And then you have to actually take it on and somehow allow it to leave them.
Yeah.
Doesn't that wear on you? How do you do that, session after session after session?
Yeah, so most people ask me that question, right? Oh my, that's a lot to take on. I mean, I've been doing this work for a long time, a long time. And there's a couple of things, Rory, is like when you're, I don't want to use the word channel as in like spiritual channel, but when you're clear,
Mhm.
nothing can actually touch you. Like the work that I do, it also creates almost like I want to say like a field, like a magnetic field, like superpower. It's not that. It's just that it's not about me, right? I'm not that person. So if somebody's sitting and I'm surrogating as their mum who abandoned them and abused them as a child and whatever, and they're looking at me, it's eye contact. You have to maintain eye contact. And they're going, Mum, all I'm feeling is the deepest compassion. There's nothing that I'm taking on energetically from them because I'm not mum and it's not about me. So, and as I open my heart more into compassion, that's the energy that I'm feeling inside of me. And that's what helps them to heal. If I was sitting there getting triggered and going, oh, my son has said this to me, or oh my
Right.
God, what if, I should have said that to my mother. I'm not in that place. So there's that piece. And also, you're setting up a really sacred space for this person. Like we use the term safe container, and it kind of gets bandied about a little bit, but
Hmm.
there's a connection between you and your client where they feel really wholeheartedly supported and genuinely cared for. And I think that's the difference between, some of us as practitioners versus sort of the old style of psychotherapy or psychology is, you're on the clock and you show up and then like, tell me about your parents, and you have to loop for years and years and years. Whereas the work that we're doing is it goes deep and it goes fast, hard, quick. So people are, you don't get hooked in for years of therapy. Um, so there's a connection that happens that sort of goes beyond the mind, if you like.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
And no, I don't take it on. I mean, sometimes my client will leave a session, or I'll spend a few days with them, and I'll burst into tears, and I'll be like, man, that poor person. But it's not like, oh my God, I can't handle it. It's just
Sure.
it's the deepest compassion.
Sure.
Yeah,
Interesting. I
yeah.
appreciate you answering that. I'm sorry if everybody asks you
No,
that,
no,
but
no, no. It's
I
it's
get it.
such a
Yeah.
good question, though. It really is because it's a myth. I mean, there's a saying, and I think Tony Robbins said it. He said, "Your capacity to hold someone else's emotion is the direct capacity to with which you have expressed your own."
Mm.
So, I can. I can teach or present or speak to a room of 5,000. Like I've done that once. And it was effortless for me because the work that I've done on myself is to the capacity of like, a, you know, tenfold.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah,
Hmm.
100%.
Yeah.
It's yes, it does. There's like 5,000 questions going through my head, but unfortunately, this isn't the podcast for that. So
We need to do another podcast,
I have to
sorry.
get out of podcasts. Yeah, I gotta save that for our other podcast we're gonna do, for sure. But for this one, to kind of start bringing this to a close because this is step up to the mic, and this is about
Yeah.
the speaking.
Yeah.
The You mentioned that the government shut you down, yeah, with what you were trying to
Hmm.
do.
Yeah.
Um, and now it's time for you again. You took a little time. You're with the kids. Now it's time for you again. You're out here doing podcast interviews. You are doing public speaking. You've written a book, Metamorphosis,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And are you worried that they're going to try and do it again?
No. No, I'm not. And I know this may sound a bit flippant, but I don't care. It's kind of like that. It's like, you know what? New Zealand, especially, and I think Australia and maybe the UK are similar. We have a thing called tall poppy syndrome. I don't know if you've heard of it. You don't have it in the States.
Hmm.
It's where, somebody tries to rise and you get cut off, you get cut down. We have things here like people will say things like, "Oh, who does she think she is?"
Hmm.
There's kind of a jealousy mentality or a small town culture where there's not enough to go around, and so it's dog eat dog, and people are trying to, hold on to their business and hold on to their clients. So they say and do things. Um, so in terms of could the government take me down again? Well, like for what? What am I doing that is so wrong? I mean, back then the only thing that they investigated or interrogated me about was they thought that I was performing tax fraud because we were, in a gifting economy. So women were gifting into these transformational workshops, and sometimes we'd pay in cash, and other times, we'd go to other countries, and so they were like, "Are you paying tax?" And I said, "Well, here's the bank account. Take a look." And is this a pyramid scheme? And we're like, well, here's all the information. Take a look. So it was just, they were trying to figure something out that was non-existent. Like we got a letter towards the end that said, sorry for the inconvenience. We can neither deny or, we can't state any claim as to what this actually is. And we're like, but you got run over the coals. So
Sure.
it took me a while to reconcile in myself, like who was this journalist that went underground? Like, why would you do that? Because we had someone in with us that was still don't know to this day.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the media, the twist that the media put on what it is that we're actually doing, like, oh, really? So I feel bulletproof now, and I feel humble. Like that humbled me to my core. I had to look at parts of me that were definitely still in my ego. But we're talking 10 years ago. And I just feel like, if that kind of thing came at me now, I'd be like, okay, this again. And I'd
Well,
probably also stand up because I didn't stand up strong enough back then. I tried, but I'm standing up against the government and the commission. It's like, how do you do that? But I'd probably stand stronger now. Yeah, it's
good for
interesting.
you.
Like when I say that, I feel my blood kind of warming and hairs stand on the end. I'd be like, I'm
Yeah.
making a stand for,
You look like
so
you sat up a little straighter when you said that
yeah,
too.
I
All right, there
did.
we go.
I was like, no, you do not get to take women down ever again. It's like that.
Good for you. Good for
Yeah.
you. All right, I love it. All right, Soreya, let everybody know how they can reach you, how they can contact you, how they can find out more about you.
Yeah, I'm still not, fully visible, but I am on Facebook and I am on Instagram, and I do have an app that you can go to. I'll get the links through to you, Rory. But
Okay,
and my book it is on Kindle, and it is a digital version because it has Spotify playlists and breathwork therapy and kind of weaved in through it. So it's like a journey that I take people on through a teaching memoir. Um, but yeah, I'm really just starting to become more and more and more visible now. And it's people like yourself. Thank you so much that give me the feedback that you just gave me that makes me realize that it is important to be out in the public eye again. Um, yeah, New Zealand's a small place, so to have a bit more of a global reach and meet people like yourself with whom I would have never met otherwise.
Yeah.
It feels really important to me, and there's a lot of beautiful people doing amazing work out there in the world, and I'm another one of those voices. I've just been doing it a long, long time, and I feel that that has some bones. When you've got the lived wisdom in your bones and you've been put through the mill over and over and over again. And, my mum's song to me is that one, she gets knocked down and then gets up again. Like she's often singing that to me. She's like, darling, I don't know how you do it, but you just get up, and I'm like, yep. So
Nice.
yeah, it's nice to be getting back up again.
Good for you. And that's a
Yeah.
wonderful theme song for you to wrap around yourself and keep you warm. That's beautiful. All right. Oh my goodness. Folks, private rehabilitation guide, somatic psychotherapist, transformational facilitator, speaker, author of the book Metamorphosis, Soreya James. Soreya, thank you for coming on, for delivering an absolutely wonderful talk, and for sharing, these things about yourself. It's been an absolute delight to have you on here, and I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor. I've loved it. So
Thank
much
you.
fun.
Thank you, folks. All right, folks, this has been another spectacular episode of Step Up to the Mic. If you are an aspiring or current speaker and you want to bring your talk to the masses, message us today. Never stop talking and let us help you step up to the mic.